Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Wellness and What It Takes to Have It and Keep It webinar. I am Magdalene Villegas. I am the Outreach Director for Rap and Recovery Books, and we'd like to say how happy we are to be kicking off Wellness Week with this webinar about wellness. We'll do a couple of housekeeping things. The webinar will go for about 45 minutes with 15 minutes at the end for questions and answers. So you can just type in your question in the little question box on your GoToWebinar panel, and we'll try to get to those as soon as we can. If we can't get to all of them, we can email you. You can email us, or we can email you back if we haven't gotten to it. And I think that's it. So thanks for joining us. I will now introduce our webinar hosts. We have BJ North. I'm sure many of you are familiar with BJ. She's a certified RAP consultant, master facilitator, and community development consultant who's based in Santa Cruz, California. She has worked in the human resource and organizational department area as an advisor, manager, group facilitator, and project development officer throughout the United States and Canada. She is a successful business owner who contracts with many government agencies, privately held companies, and community-based nonprofits. BJ enthusiastically uses her skills of leadership, interpersonal communications, and group facilitation in her professional development workshops. She works to build bridges across grounds such as those from business to community, individuals to community resources, and agencies to consumers. She has assisted various community agencies to better serve by helping people hear and speak to one another in the spirit of mutual respect. BJ is joined today by two others, Jawanza Hadley and Kari Dapp. Jawanza is an independent wellness consultant, facilitator, and life coach with a combined 20 years experience in the corporate business management, technology, and education and healthcare industries. He is a certified RAP facilitator through Conscious Educators, and he works closely with the Copeland Center on a variety of projects. He currently holds weekly RAP groups along with doing RAP overviews. And we have Kari Dapp as well, who is a financial analyst at Hewlett-Packard, where she has worked for over 18 years in various roles. And she's also the executive director of Milestones Family Recovery, which is a family business started by her mother over 20 years ago. She has attended RAP workshops and is offering RAP to clients and staff at Milestones and is using RAP in her life. So I will now hand it over to BJ. And BJ, it's all yours.
Thank you, Magdalene. Welcome, everyone, to the webinar. Just a little housekeeping for myself. I'm grateful to be here. And how we're going to work the webinar today is we're going to do it in just a conversation between myself, Kari, and Jawanza. So it kind of kick back, and it'll be about wellness, having it and keeping it, and what that means for each of us, because we are the experts on our own lives and what it takes to think about wellness and to have wellness continuously in our lives. So that will be the conversation of today. How we're going to go through defining wellness for ourselves today is we're going to be looking at through the lens of the key concepts, which we'll get in a minute, and the Wellness Recovery Action Plan. We'll also talk about what it means to have it on a daily basis, some of the external relationships we have in connection to people, places, and things around having wellness and keeping it. And we'll talk about some of those internal thoughts, emotions, and feelings that we have with ourselves that help keep us well or not. So that's what we're going to be defining wellness, how we're going to define wellness for ourselves today. The first part of this is about having wellness, and I put a definition about what that means for me. This means taking a deeper look at how I take care of myself and through my connections with myself and others. And we'll go a little bit over the key concepts in RAP, and then we'll get into the depth of having wellness and keeping it by telling you stories from our lives about how we see it, how we define it, and what it looks like for us. The first part is the key concepts, and I'll go over hope, and I'm gonna have Kari and Jawanza join me in defining these areas for themselves: personal responsibility, education. I'll come back with self-advocacy, and Jawanza will wrap us up with support. So for me, hope, having and keeping it, is, for me, is, this is like, these concepts are the foundations of what we do before we do a RAP plan, these 5 concepts. And for me, learning what my hope was learning to acknowledge what things may help me to feel hopeful. And one of the things that helped me to feel hopeful is to know that in any given moment, I am the expert of myself, and that I love what I do in life, like that I'm connected to some kind of niche that inspires me, empowers me to keep me going. And in order to have it, I have to acknowledge it. And in order to keep it, what I do is I make sure that I talk to my supporters, my friends, people around me who know me. I let them know what it is for me to have hope. So when I'm feeling hopeless at times, they'll mirror that back to me. And it's been a great thing to hear my voice come out of my supporters' mouth right back to me, some of the things that I've given them. So having the hope in every moment keeps me going, keeps me fulfilled, keep me wanting to learn more and more and more about myself and my connections with everything that's in the present moment. And keeping it is just seeing it showing up with my friends. I'm going to invite Jawanza to talk a little bit about personal responsibility, having it and keeping it. Jawanza?
Thank you, BJ. Thank you, BJ. And I guess I'll join the conversation in talking about how personal responsibility shows up in my life, and how I have it. And when I first started working on my rap, one of the things that I really had to look at for myself was, what are the areas in my life that I could take away the blame, shame, and guilt. And for the decisions that I've made in my life and the things that happen, and not really putting those on other people, but taking the responsibility myself. And as I continue to work on my rap and really focus in on, self-discovery and finding out more about myself, I found that when I can do that, it helps me to stay well. Having personal responsibility, just being able to identify those areas in my life helps me to stay well. And the way I continue to keep it is by also sharing that with others, and letting them know, when I have made a decision, or when I have identified an area in my life where I can take personal responsibilities, to let others around me know what that looks like. And more importantly for me, I've really done, in looking at this, I've continued to identify what those look like for myself, and write those down. Write down the areas in my life that I can take personal responsibility, and list them out, and continually look back to them on a regular basis. And by doing so, I have wellness, and I continue to stay well. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Kari, who will talk about the education.
Thank you. Okay, so I've discovered that through doing some rap workshops and applying rap in my life, that by educating myself on a continual basis on things that I can do every day or periodically to make myself feel better, that I can own those things, but I have to know what they are. And part of that is just thinking about things. Part of it is and just reflection. Part of it is getting feedback from others when I know that there's something I need to do differently, and people who know me, they can share with me, what they see me doing that looks healthier. So I try to look at, on a regular basis, things that I could be doing and repeating so that I stay well. And some of those things I've discovered I need to do every single day, like eating healthy and working out. Other things I identified that make me feel good, I don't necessarily need to do every day, and I still am well. So I've tried to fine tune kind of a list of things that I've got to be doing all the time to be well, and then things that I have to sprinkle in there, or when I know I'm off track, then I keep looking at it and asking for help from my supporters to see things that I'm not seeing myself. So, and some of it also is doing research on the internet and trying out new things and maybe figuring out those aren't the right things for me, but just sort of part of it is trial and error, and part of it is just seeking out other options that I haven't tried before to see what works for me. So that's what the education piece means to me. PJ?
Okay, my computer is going in and out, and thank you. So, thank you, Kari and Jawanza. So, self-advocacy is having it and keeping it. You know, self-advocacy for me is probably one of the hardest things to have and keep with when I'm well. And for me, it's about learning to use language in a way that's not only the language that BJ speaks, that I speak for myself, but the language that other people can hear. So really being conscious of what I'm needing, what I'm asking for, and how I'm doing that in my tone, in my energy level, who I'm talking to, how I gather support. So in order for me to have wellness around self-advocacy, is I have to be willing in those times when I'm having a hard time talking to a person about my needs and wants, willing to do it anyway, and willing to do it knowing that I want to be humble and grateful in the conversation with this person so they can hear me instead of being in conflict with them. Is learning that when I tell my story in the moment of what I'm needing from this person, that I'll be able to, in the future, keep having that same wellness of being able to talk through the uncomfortable or discomfort that happens. And it's not always comfort or discomfort. Sometimes it's a great connection, and making sure that within that I'm constantly and consciously telling my truth. So for me, having and keeping wellness is that I'm able to advocate it at any level with the people I'm around and that I'm with. And it's really, really important that I do that through, um, you know, using language that is meaningful and that I believe in. So that's what self-advocacy means for me in having and keeping wellness. And Jawanza.
Thank you, BJ. So with support, I think for me, support is, having it and keeping it. Really, what this is for me is identifying the people who I can trust that can help me in my wellness. And the support, it's really about, for me, the way it shows up for me is not just identifying those people or those individuals that I can trust, but also looking at identifying those who I can't trust and really letting them know how they can support me in my wellness. And it isn't just about, I used to think that support for me was really about just, my close family members are going to support me. But as I started to work and do this work more and work on my rap and ask myself my questions about, are there people, my family members, who I really care about and love, and friends who are really close, can they really support me in the way I need? You know, Even if I advocate for myself and ask for what I want and need, are they able to do that? And really not just identifying them, but really asking those individuals, what are the ways in which you can support me? Here's what I need. Can you do this for me? Or can you help me with this? And so having wellness is really just taking a look at identifying those who we can trust and who we can surround ourselves around that will help us with our wellness. And then keeping wellness through support it's huge. It isn't always about, I used to have this idea or this thought that support was about, you had to be really, really close with somebody, and that isn't always the case. Sometimes it's just checking in with those individuals who we can trust, and seeing how they're doing and letting them know how we're doing, and seeing how what's going on in their life. And for me, when I can do those things, when I can identify those people and those individuals, and make sure I maintain contact with them and check in with them on a regular basis, and see how things are going, and ask for, are there any ways that I can support them as well? Because for me, support isn't just one way. It isn't what can someone else do for me or my friends, my family members. It's also what can I do for them as well. And so when we do that, it shows up in our lives, and we can support them, they can support us. And so for me, the key to having wellness and keeping it through support is identifying who our supporters are, and it's also making sure we reciprocate the support that we want as well. So I'll turn it back over to BJ.
Thank you, Jawanza. And we just talked about the 5 key recovery concepts: hope, personal responsibility, education, self-advocacy, and support through the lenses of having and keeping wellness. Now we're going to talk about a little bit about the Wellness Recovery Action Plan, just a really quick overview about WRAP and what it entails, and some of the ways we use that in having and keeping wellness in our lives. And I'll start with talking about the Wellness Toolbox. And the Wellness Toolbox is this idea of the things that I do for myself that helps me to have wellness, that are simple, safe, and inexpensive or free to use, that help me to feel good. And this concept of a wellness toolbox is knowing that, as things happen in my life, I have these things that I can do, these wellness tools that I can use at any given moment, no matter where I'm at, whether I'm doing really well or becoming less well, that I'll have things that I can grab for myself to bring me back to wellness in every single moment. And so some of the wellness tools that I use in my life to help me stay well, so I can have wellness and keep it. The first tool that I love, and a lot of people who know and support me, or who are in my life in any way, know that this tool is a great tool for me, which is journaling out loud. And for me, journaling out loud is this concept that I get to call a friend, a supporter, an acquaintance, and when I pick up the phone and call them, or when I'm with them in person, I ask them if they have 5 or 10 minutes, they can hear me or listen to me. And during that 5 or 10 minutes, they don't give me advice, they don't interrupt, they just sit and hold the space with me, so I can hear myself talk. And I know that I'm talking out loud and not in my head. And they're giving me the space to do it, to create this place where I'm being able to hear, because I'm telling my supporters the truth always. There's a trust that's going on. And so in order to have wellness, I also want to know what I'm holding in my head, the language I'm telling myself that no one else can hear. And that wellness tool has been amazing in my life. Now, if my supporters hear something, of course, in that journaling out loud that they wanted to ask questions for, we would hang up the phone or disconnect for a minute, and then they would call me back later and ask me about that. And that's so they won't stop my process from happening while I'm journaling out loud. And that is a great tool. That's one of the many tools that I use for myself that really work in keeping my wellness going. And so I'll turn it over now to Jawanza to do daily maintenance plan.
Okay, so after we've established our the wellness toolbox, we talk about the idea and the concepts behind this webinar are having wellness and keeping wellness. And I think the first section of WRAP really speaks to that in the daily maintenance plan. And there are 3 parts to the daily maintenance plan. The first one is what I'm looking like when I'm well, and for me, when I can identify that, what that looks like, it helps me have a snapshot and a picture of what I'm like when I'm well. So I always have that as a reference to look back upon. And for me, when I'm well, what it looks like for me is I'm happy, I'm talking, I'm very interactive, I'm smiling, I'm going out, I'm doing things. That's what it would look like for me when I'm well. The second part is of the daily maintenance plan is the daily to-dos. And this really kind of speaks to, for me, about what it takes to have wellness and keep it. It's really identifying those things that we need to do each and every day that can help us stay well. And I've identified that there's a few things. When I first started out with my rap, there was only a few things that I did, but now there's several things I do each day to make sure that I'm well. One of the things that I do each and every morning, it's really simple, but it helps me get the day started, is to wake up and have a cup of coffee every morning. That in itself, it gives me a chance to unwind, think, plan for the day, get up and get going. That really works well for me. I also make sure that throughout each day, I have contact with my children, whether it's by a phone call, an email, or nowadays with technology, even a simple text message. But making sure I contact with them and just see what's going on, and I'm checking in with them. But those are two quick examples of things that I need to do each and every day to help with my wellness, to have it and to keep it. And then the third part of the daily maintenance plan section is optional to-dos. And these are things that we maybe can't do every single day, but things that can help us with our wellness. Or they may be things that we can do that maybe we've caught up and we're doing our daily maintenance plan, but we want to do a little bit something extra to kind of get ahead. And like for me, I know that sometimes I can be overwhelmed with taking care of house chores, simple things like doing laundry around the house, and sometimes I'm on the road and busy, and things start piling up, and I can really get overwhelmed with things that are going on around the house. And so sometimes an optional thing to do for me is just to, when I'm caught up on things, to make sure I do an extra load of laundry and make sure I do a couple of chores around the house to help me stay well, to keep me from becoming overwhelmed. And but those are kind of the key things that I look at in terms of having wellness and keeping wellness through the daily maintenance plan. So I'll turn it over to Kari.
Okay, so the triggers are external events or circumstances, things that I don't have any control over, that happen that cause me to react, or I can react to. And I know that I'm feeling triggered because I can feel it physically. Sometimes my skin feels like it's irritated, kind of burning, or I feel really hot and just stress. I can feel physical change in my body when I'm triggered, and other people might not be able to detect that, but I can feel it myself sometimes. And there's a lot of things that can cause sort of minor triggers in me, but the one big one that I deal with on a continual basis, and I'm constantly challenged to work with, is my teenage daughter. She's very emotional, and she's sometimes unhappy or stressed out about things, and she sort of brings that out. And just in having a conversation with her, I feel triggered because I can see how upset she is, and I sort of get pulled into her emotional roller coaster, and I can feel myself react to that. So I'm constantly challenging myself to find ways to remind myself that I don't have to feel everything she's feeling, and to just sort of take a deep breath and let it go, and work with her to try to get her to see how she can take responsibility to improve her life, but that I don't have to be on that same roller coaster with her all the time. Thanks.
Thank you, Kari. The next part is early warning signs and, of course, an action plan. And just where these action plans come from is from our wellness toolbox. So we plug them in, on our daily lives. We plug them in at triggers, early warning signs when things are breaking down, crisis planning, and post-crisis planning. I'm going to share a little bit about early warning signs for me and how I stay well around those early warning signs. So early warning signs are these subtle signs of change that are internal that I'm noticing. Maybe everyone else around me isn't noticing them when I do. And so for me, it's when I feel a little, I'm an extrovert. I'm a person who loves to be seen in the world, loves to show up. And sometimes when I'm having some kind of emotion that I haven't recognized or something going on in me, I can feel a little sad, and I'll start isolating, staying in the house. And so, and really, I only know that because I'm not my normal self. I'm not connecting with my supporters like I usually do. I'm not having conversation or journaling out loud. I'm stuck in my head like that. And when I can acknowledge it, when I can acknowledge that I'm in my space, and the first person to help me acknowledge it is my son, Trent, who will just say, "Mom, where are you at?" He'll just call me on the carpet on that. And when I'm in early warning signs, I know that I need to think about picking up the phone and calling someone, talking it out to figure out how I got there or what I'm holding or what I'm going through at that moment. And language for me is a big part of coming out of and being in those early warning signs. So early warning signs is that I usually am stuck in a story on a train in my head. I've bought a ticket to someplace no one else is going but me. I've brought something into my consciousness that I'm trying to work out by myself. And so I get stuck on that story for a while, and it brings me down because usually it's not something that's positive. It's something that's negative or something I'm wanting to work out, but I can't because I have attached shame, blame, and guilt or judgment around it, and I don't know yet how to get out of that. So the one thing, when I hear my son says that, that's like a ticket for me to pick up the phone and call one of my close supporters so I can, be with them. So in order to have wellness and keep it, I have to be willing in that moment to pick up that phone, to go outside, to take a walk, to talk to someone. And usually that's exactly what I'll do, because in any given moment, I have hope that I'm going to stay well. And in order to have that hope, I have to be willing to have some kind of action in my life that is something I do to help myself get out of those early warning signs. So I'm going to invite Kari to talk about when things are breaking down, an action plan.
Okay. So when things are breaking down, to me is when things have gone past just being triggered or warning signs, and it's a kind of a mini crisis for me. And it's definitely something that's visible by others. I'll find myself in situations where I'll feel really stressed and raise my voice to the point of yelling, maybe. And I can think of many interactions with my teenage daughter Janie, where things have broken down for me in trying to interact with her. And I guess for me, I try to have my interactions in those situations, maybe see if I can walk away and put things on hold for a few minutes, so that I can get a hold of myself and get, back to a stage where, I might be triggered, but I'm not like lashing out, throwing things, yelling. And So for me, that my action to get away from that is usually to take a break and come back and visit and try to solve something once emotions aren't as heightened.
Thank you, Kari.
Mhm.
Jawanza, you there?
I am. So I'm going to talk about crisis planning and crisis planning. I think, you know, I have this kind of one very narrow-minded view of what a crisis was before I really got into working my rap and was faced with something, a situation in life that I wouldn't have thought was a crisis before. But crisis planning is there are 9 parts to the crisis planning section, and really what the crisis plan is about is when we can get back to being well by bringing our supporters. When things have broken down and we're kind of at that edge, but when we can really do our action plan and get ourselves back on track with crisis planning, there's typically, for me, it's been an unforeseen or an uncontrollable event where I couldn't get back on track myself, and I really needed to pull in my supporters. And so there are 9 parts to the crisis planning section. The first section is looking at, what does it look like when we're well? And we're not looking and defining what it looks like when we're well for ourselves, but this is for other people, for our supporters who we might bring in to assist us. And that would be part one. The second part is looking at identifying the signs that we need to activate the plan. So what are the things that are occurring, that are happening, that says that this is an uncontrollable event and that I'm unwell, and that I need to bring supporters in to help me get back on track and get well. The third part is looking at our supporters and identifying who are those people that can support us, and not just who they are, but what are the roles they can play in helping us get back to being well. And the fourth part is if we are in a situation where we may need to have medication, what are those medications we need, or what are the medications or the things that we take during to keep us well. I mean, those maybe something simple as vitamins, supplements, kind of regular things, or maybe like for me, I have slightly elevated blood pressure, so I regularly take my blood pressure medication. So making sure I take that stuff on a daily basis and asking my supporters to help me support me in that. 5 is looking at alternative therapies. What are the other things that we can do besides the medication, maybe that can help us to recover our wellness? It could be something as simple as, getting a massage or acupuncture therapy, or it could be something like, for me, playing a video game or something like that when I'm stressed or struggling, or just to give me a chance to zone out. And then after we've looked at that, we really want to take a look at, we may need to have some care where we can't care for ourselves in a particular situation. And so we look at the different types of care we can have. So that would be like a home, a respite, or a community center. And identifying which one we would prefer and letting our supporters know where we would prefer to be at. And the seventh part is treatment facilities, looking at, if we need to go to a hospital and those other facilities don't work, the home care doesn't work, the respite care doesn't work, or the community care doesn't work, and we need to go to a hospital, where could we go that would make us get well, that would help us get well better? The different types of hospitals. We want to go to a small clinic, a big general hospital, etc. The 8th part is really looking at, this kind of ties in with our supporters, but it's help from others, and being very specific about, when we're in a time of crisis, where are those things that we need to get done that can help us get back on track that we can't really do for ourselves? Maybe things like paying bills, helping with finances, doing chores around the house, grocery shopping, things of that nature. And the last part 9, is identifying what are the signs that we can inactivate the plan. In other words, what does it look like, or what are the signs that we can no longer need to use the crisis plan, and that we can really get back to being well on our own. And so that would be the crisis plan.
Thank you, Jawanza. And the last part, the last section of this is post-crisis planning. And how I like to look at that is it's in two parts: addressing what came up during the crisis and a timetable for resuming the responsibilities that I might have let my supporters do while I was not well. And, you know, we all have to define what a crisis looked like for us in our lives, you know, for ourselves. And for me, it's just when something has bumped me off my normal way of being well and I'm in that reactive mode. That could be a crisis for me. And post-crisis planning is just really thinking about when that came up, when the things came up that threw me off. Did the supporters, it's asking myself a lot of questions about, did my supporters show up? Did they show up the way I wanted to? Was my plan really effective, the way I've written it and the way I wanted things to work, or do I need to change things? It's just a lot of these asking myself of that. What do I want to go right now? Who do I want to be around? How do I want to come back to myself, and what do I want to do to do that? And then it's around, did I have people taking my son to school? Were people shopping for me? And really, when can I do all this stuff by myself, take back my daily chores, the way I structure my life? What is the timetable for coming back to my own responsibilities? And so that's what a little bit of what post-crisis planning is. So we're going to move on now and really think about talking in depth. We have a few minutes left of what it's like, how am I being and what am I doing on a daily basis when I am having wellness in my life. And I think when I'm having wellness in my life, it's really about learning to acknowledge that acknowledge what it is that I'm doing and how I'm being, that is keep giving me hope, that I'm taking personal responsibility for, that every moment I'm educating myself about things around me, my connection with others, my connection with myself, and what things do I need to accomplish in order to keep doing what I'm doing to have this wellness, and some optional things I might have time to pull in when I'm feeling well. So for me, like how my life looks when I'm doing okay, when I'm having wellness, is I'm having a conversation every day. I'm excited about life. Hope is like one of the greatest things that's in me all the time because I'm doing something that I love. I'm not listening to what other people think or say or do about me. I'm really expressing and sharing my moments with other people, with myself, in connection with everything that exists. And so for me, it's really acknowledging that, so I know what it feels like when I'm having wellness. So I know what it looks like when I'm becoming less and less well. So it's about having that. Kari or Jawanza, would you like to talk on this one? What it's like when you're having wellness on a daily basis?
Sure. What I've figured out, the biggest thing that I can do and need to do every day, if at all possible, is just simply eating well and exercising. I mean, that's what makes the biggest difference. And so if I have 10 or 15 things that I think will contribute to my wellness on a given day, but I can't do everything and I've got to make some choices, I know focusing on those two key things will give me the most benefit and the most back, so that if I miss some of the other things, then I'll get through the day feeling well.
Thank you.
I would just say for me quickly that oh, you want to move on?
No, go ahead. It's okay.
I was just gonna say for me quickly that I think for me it's really about recognizing that at each and every moment, just through working on my rap on a regular basis and referring to it regularly and being able to stop in each and every moment and really identify and compare and look at what am I doing right now? Is this contributing to my wellness? And that helps me quite a bit each and every single day to have wellness and to stay well.
Thank you, Jawanza. So another way to have wellness for me is through external relationships, connections to people, places, and things. And I have a great friend. Her name is Jane Winterling, and she was part of this whole rap thing when it started. And I really got a great definition from her of these things about these triggers or these things that happen. And triggers for me could be, they could be something that I react to or something that I have a reaction that's like, I guess, good, and something that, could take me down this path of unwellness. And one of the things that I got clear with her was that triggers happen all the time, no matter where we at in the scope of wellness, they are happening, And so it helped me to understand that I am in relationship with everything around me, and to know what that relationship is really going to benefit me. So there are these things that I call triggers that I love, things that I put around the house on a daily basis. Like I have these, what do you call them, Post-it pads sticking everywhere, and those are good triggers to remind me to do affirmations in the mirror in the morning. Or there are these things that that I have around that I've written or that I'm in the process of writing. Those are great triggers because I know that helps my hope stay alive. Oh yeah, that's right. I'm working on this book right now. It's my, I take personal responsibility to write a page every day. I educate myself about what else needs to go in there. So in every given moment, there are these external connections that I'm having in my house. And when I go outside and see the garden in the front yard, those are like hopeful triggers for me. Like, oh my God, I planted this garden. Things are growing. It's a beautiful thing. Like, and how is that having effect on my life? It's like I put right now I'm smiling, thinking about looking out the window right now, and I have these great butternut squash growing in my front yard. I'm not feeding the grass. I feel good about that. There are different places that I like to go. Like I love hanging out in San Francisco. I love hiking, and those places are things that help trigger that hopeful place in me where I'm smiling and having a good time. So it's about having people in my life and relationships that I have that when I call them, I know that what they're going to do is give me these great ideas and feedback to me, some of those things that help, again, trigger the hope, the personal responsibility, that advocacy for myself to do that more often. And through that support of those friends, it's amazing. And I'm always wanting to be present with whatever reaction I'm having, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. And so for me, I want to set up those things in my life that are great triggered reactions instead of those things, and sometimes those things come up and catch me off guard where I'm having a negative reaction to something. And what I do in that moment makes all the difference in the world. So my thing is not to take that on. We're going to go to the next slide. So some of the things that I can do to respond is acknowledge that I just got thrown, externally, something outside of me, just like being in traffic and I'm trying to hurry somewhere. I'm driving down the road and I feel myself on that horn or feel my hands around that steering wheel. My thing is, in this moment, I can breathe. I don't have to be here. Let me call somebody on the phone, talk to one of those supporters who are going to make me smile. Like, that's going to help me. That's my action plan to these things that come up, that are these external things that can catch me off guard or enhance where I'm at in the moment. And doing something that feels good, again, picking up that phone and talking to a friend is just all I need in that moment. And then I'm relaxed, and it doesn't matter if it's traffic or not, because there is that smile, that sense of hope, taking personal responsibility. I was able to get out of that 10-second, holding my knuckles to the steering wheel, So those things are really, really beneficial when I can just walk myself through that in any given moment. So Kari or Jawanza, you have something to say on this one? We have a few minutes left.
No, I'm okay. We can.
Okay. Okay, so the next slide is about internal emotions and thoughts and feelings with ourselves. And really, this slide for me is about acknowledging where I'm at, and what I talked about earlier when I talked about early warning signs is really acknowledging and putting words to where I'm at in every given moment, where my thoughts are. Am I thinking good things that I can or will or do something, or am I thinking, oh my God, this person did that and they did that? Where are my stories at any given moment, and how are those stories that are internally going on? How am I feeling to them? I have a tense body, my body relaxed, because that helps me gauge where I'm at with these eternal connections with myself. And some of the questions I ask myself is, what am I feeling right now? Am I only in feelings and not taking care of other things that I'm responsible to or for? Which, am I stuck in the stories and what I'm feeling and what's going on? I'm actually getting up and doing things, taking action, going out, taking a walk, being with my friends, connecting with other people, thinking about those great conversations with, one of my supporters, or am I holding anything that is keeping me from being present? And usually when I'm in my head and my thoughts, I'm usually not present in the moment. Present to me in the moment means that I'm in connection with whatever I'm doing. My eyes are open. I'm in an educational process with whatever's going on with me. And I'm not stuck in the spin in my head. So really, that relationship helps me to have wellness when I can be in the place of hopefulness in any given moment, even with the feelings that are going on. Be able to identify them, let them live, let them have space to live, but not take over everything I'm doing in the moment. Some things to consider doing um, right now that will help to be present in a different way is put words to what's happening for me internally. Remember saying out loud, talking out loud, talk to someone about it, and check in with myself about what's going on. And if I can do this all the time when I'm just feeling those subtle signs, I can continue to have wellness. It's just acknowledging and moving on and not being stuck in that space for myself. And how I keep wellness. This is a picture of a group we just did recently. Amazing people. Their process has been amazing. I love all of these people are just like great supporters of mine, and I hope that I am for them as well. And this is one way that I keep it, is just keep these continual contacts. So keeping wellness in my life and things to be aware of is knowing what I look like when I'm well. Really, that was a big thing for me because no one had ever asked me that. So when that question was first posed to me, it was like, I don't know what I look like when I'm well because I hadn't had to think through it. Having willing to say what's so with me at any given moment to my supports, no matter if I'm in that shame, blame, and guilt and stuck place, I want to be willing to say that to my supporters so they can help me out, so I can get support around that. And having supports in my life that I have a constant connection with. And this is what helps me keep my wellness. These things are really vital for me in my life to keep wellness, is to make sure I'm connected through the difficult times as well as the times that are not difficult. Is not only picking up the phone when I need help, but picking up the phone when I need when I want just laughing. So that's what helps me out. Jawanza or Kari, you want to talk about keeping wellness in your life? What that means?
Yeah, I think for me it's really similar. I found that doing this work, working with RAP and really focusing on wellness, actually has been amazing for me. And I'll have to say that a big part of my wellness now has been doing this work, really focusing on all the different ways I can stay well and really continually educating myself on what are the different ways I can do it. And what's great for me, and I know you touched on this just a moment ago, but just really being conscious and aware of what those moments are when I may not be well, or I may not be as well as I could be. And for me, that is amazing. And I just, that in of itself, for me, is it in a nutshell. I love all this, the work that I'm doing, educating myself, and then having the, I am an extrovert as well. And so having the capacity and the ability to share that with others, and is amazing, and supporting others. And that it's a big part of my wellness right now. So that's what it looks like for me.
Kari? Kari? Okay, I guess she's not there right now, so we'll keep moving it. Okay, so wellness, having it and living it. So for me, it takes work to pay attention to my wellness, and it's up to me to have it and keep it. And so that means that I can't blame anybody else for the decisions and choices I've made in my life if that has helped me become unwell. But I also want to give myself credit for the wellness I have in my life instead of giving it to someone else. And I remember coming into this work, I used to give other people, I used to give other people comments about how they helped my life to be well. And really, what it was doing for me is I wasn't acknowledging that I was making decisions and choices for myself, that my life was in this place of 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 having wellness. So I know for me, I got to acknowledge that I am part of what makes the wellness happen for me. And when we're in the moment, we have wellness beyond belief. That means that in any given moment, that I'm conscious, that I'm aware, that I'm right here, right where I'm supposed to be with myself, without the stories going on, but really watching my child grow up in that moment, or being with someone fully in a moment. That is what it takes to have it, to live it, to have it continuously. So I, Jawanza, Kari, you want to say anything about that, having it and living it?
Sure, I will. I guess for me, I just kind of sum this up as, there's a quote from a literary masterpiece, William Shakespeare in Hamlet. He says, "Thinking so makes it so." And for me, when I'm aware and conscious, and for me, a big part of my wellness is just having fun and being happy. And when I can take that and I can just think about that and say, you know what, in any moment when something may not seem at that moment like it's not fun, or whatnot, I can change my thoughts in that moment. And knowing that, doing that, just continually, allows me to stay well, to keep it, and to live it. And I live life to have fun in what we're doing. And yeah, life is serious. There's lots of things that, there's difficulties that occur, and all these things that happen. But we can also have fun. And for me, part of my wellness is doing that. It's living, having fun, and being conscious in the moment, to be able to say that in any opportunity, in any moment, I can just change that right now. So that's my take on it.
For me, I would say that what I've learned is that by putting out just a little bit of work continually, it pays off so much. I find that I'm so much happier and so much more relaxed because I'm doing the little things that make me feel better, and that makes everything in life so much easier. But if I stop paying attention, then things kind of go downhill, because over time I need different things and I get a bigger payoff from different things. So I've got to constantly be giving that a little bit of attention so that I can keep focusing on the things that are working, and switching gears and doing different things when something stops working.
Thank you, Kari and Jawanza. I just want to say that it's up to any of us how we have wellness in our lives. And it's about putting those things in our lives that know that to acknowledge that we have it and we keep it. And sometimes I think it's hard when something happens and we become a little less well. The greatest thing is that we have those supports and people and places and things we've done that continuously we could set up for ourselves that help us stay in the wellness of our lives and not the unwellness. And I think, Jawanza, you want to tell them about the next slide?
Yes. So up and coming, just as we conclude this webinar, in January of 2013, in Oakland, California, is we're going to have the Wrap Around the World conference, and we'd like to offer you to attend. And if you want more information about that, you can visit the Copeland Center website at www.copelandcenter.com. And there's also information. It's going to be held at the Oakland Marriott Center City. The address is here on this slide. And in addition, if you want more information about RAP, the 5 key concepts, you can visit Mary Ellen Copeland's website at mentalhealthrecovery.com, and it contains a lot of articles, research findings. There's access to online courses. There is a bookstore that has descriptions of all the books and DVDs and CDs that Mary Ellen has done. And so we just invite you to attend the conference. And if you have more questions or need any more information about resources around RAP, you can visit mentalhealthrecovery.com.
Okay, I'm going to jump in here. It's Magdalene back. I want to thank BJ and Jawanza and Kari for an absolutely wonderful webinar. We ran a little bit late, so I'm hoping people can stick around a little bit if they want to. If we want to continue with the question and answer. BJ, Jawanza, Kari, is that okay with you?
Yes.
Okay, so we do have a few questions, so let's try to get through at least some of them, okay?
Okay.
So, great. The first question that I will read is from Tanya, and she says, I am getting ready to hold my first RAP group. I'm trying to ensure that it does not become overwhelming and I can maintain my optimum wellness while I'm doing this. Any suggestions for ways to ensure that I am taking care of myself while I'm also hosting a RAP group for the first time? PJ, you want to?
That is a great. Yeah, I think that's a great question, and without any, giving advice, refraining from that, I always say be yourself, because the process of the RAP group itself is going to help you be in there at any given moment. Just trust the group, trust the process of the group.
Great. Thank you, BJ. Here are some more questions. Here's a question from Karen. She actually has 2 questions. She asks, what if you're not as high functioning as the people on the panel, and that will never be a reality for you?
Okay, that is an amazing question.
Right?
That is amazing, because we all function at various levels, and that functioning, whatever it may be, however we see it, is in comparison to something else. And I always say the person who's functioning at whatever level they're functioning at, that's great. For me, there's no high or low. It's just where I'm at in the moment.
Right. Okay. That's right. We're just as functioning as anybody else. Here's another question from her also. She says, what if you have symptoms throughout the day which you cannot control and you just say to yourself, this will pass? PJ?
Okay, so I don't know. So the question is saying to yourself, this was past?
Yeah, I think she's asking, what if you're experiencing, I guess, what she's calling symptoms, but, triggers or emotions that are hard to deal with throughout the day, and you're just, you think you can't control them, and is there a way to just say to yourself, this is just going to pass?
Yeah, I think that for me is in that moment is just being with whatever's coming up for myself, so I can go through it, or telling my supporters about it, so maybe they can support me through those moments. But I think the first thing for me to do is acknowledge and then give them space to be. And then learning after that how to maybe call somebody or pick up the phone and use an action plan for it. But I have to identify that first.
Okay, great. Thanks, BJ. There's another question from Marilyn that's saying, what can I do because I just don't have the money to see my counselor as often as she wants? I had been doing pretty well, but the last month has been a struggle.
So that is great. And how, when I can't seek professional help, I seek my supporters. They are my lifeline. And I can always see them, or one of them or two of them or three of them in a day, every day. So I have a lot of great supporters. I learned to go to groups, meet people, stick my hand out, raise up my hand, and become known so I can have supporters in my life to help with that as well.
Okay. That's great, BJ. Thank you. And here's a serious question. How do you use RAP to help with suicidal feelings?
Wow.
Right.
That that is a great question. I think as we set up our RAP plans, we set that in, and again, I'm going to say about supporters is really having people in our lives who can help us identify those moments. Because sometimes I've been in that place before where I don't want to reach out. And so what I do is when things are showing up and I haven't called a certain friend, or, something hasn't, I'm not connecting somewhere in the world, my friends actually reach out and call me or end up at my house, at my door. We haven't heard from you in a while. So I set that up as I was building my RAP plan, set up supporters to help me identify those times when, I'm feeling like I don't want to be here.
Yeah. Thank you, BJ. Elvia wants to know, how do you feel about the notion of combining RAP with a desire to get off medications?
I think that's great.
That's an easy answer.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're just about out of time. Again, I really want to thank you all for a really wonderful webinar. It's so nice, and I'm sitting here just having a great time, and it's just a pleasure that you've started off Wellness Week in such a well way, and I really appreciate that. I want to let everybody know there are 2 other webinars that are being held this week. Tomorrow is RAP and diabetes, and Wednesday is RAP and quitting smoking. So that might be something that you're all interested in as well. We're also recording this presentation, so if you want to see it, or somebody you know hasn't had a chance to see it today, it will be available in the next few days or so. We'll post it on the website, the RAP and Recovery Books website, so that you can access it whenever you like. So I'd like to say thank you again, and be well to everybody. And thank you, BJ. Thank you, Jawanza. And thank you, Kari.
You're welcome. Thank you for inviting us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Have a great day, everybody.